For good or bad, we all have customer service stories. I'm Jamie Gorman, the host of Be Better at Business TV, and I'm here this morning with Steve Johnson. Steve's the managing partner of Uno Chicago Grill in Manassas, Virginia. We're going to be here swapping some customer service stories and talking about how you can be better at customer service. Good morning, Steve.
Morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Well, Steve, you've been in restaurant business nearly 30 years, and I'm sure you have some great customer service stories, probably both good and bad a little bit, and kind of how they've impacted. How about sharing one or two just of the ones that have really had an impact or made an impression, or kind of that, hey, this was a huge lesson learned for my career.
Right.
You know, what do you have for us for some stories for us?
Well, one of the ones that really sticks in my mind is something that happened many years ago before I was with Uno's with another concept in town. Normally at the end of the night, you're looking at what products you have left over and what you're using and what you're not using. And generally, decaf coffee doesn't really move a whole lot. I had a particular guest come in, ordered a decaf coffee, told the server, really important, I need to have decaf coffee because I have heart palpitations if I don't. And the server said, oh yeah, it's decaf coffee. Inadvertently, they served him regular coffee. So I get a phone call the next day saying, hey, last night I came into your restaurant, had decaf, wanted decaf coffee, I got served regular coffee. So, what do you do with this situation? Right. You can just apologize tremendously, or you can dig into it a little bit. And one of the things I found out about customer service is, how do I take it from being a complaint to being a positive, that the guest remembers the whole aspect and eliminates the complaint aspect of it and just thinks about how well we took care of that concern. So I got some information from them, found out what they like to drink, and found out actually what their favorite alcohol was, and also they had children and so forth. And I found out that the parent had a young girl that liked the old Beanie Babies, and that he liked decaf coffee and Baileys. So I went to the local mall, picked up a basket, got a bottle of Baileys, got a couple nice coffee mugs, picked up some fresh ground decaf coffee, and a Beanie Baby. And I had his address because in his mind he thought I was going to send him a couple vouchers to the restaurant to come over and see us again. And I knocked on his door and he was very surprised that I was there. And told him who I was, and he introduced me, brought me into the house, and we sat and talked for a while. And the whole experience was about, it was a cup of coffee, but it was something that caused this person some distress.
Right. And
all he was trying to do for us was let us know that we made the mistake. And all I wanted to do was make sure that he knew how much we appreciated the fact that he took the time to make the call.
Right.
Because I tell my guests when somebody, says, well, I'm not trying to complain. I says, you're not complaining. You're telling me stuff that's going on. You're giving me feedback. Without knowing what's wrong, I have no way of taking care of it.
Right.
So I take that approach, and I try to get my servers to take that approach and my management staff to take that approach, that guests that are telling you are valuable as they can be, because how many people of that 1 out of 10 that come in that just don't come back, don't tell you what was wrong, and you have no way of
fixing it. But they tell everybody else what was wrong, right?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's something, I see even, outside of retailers, but in other businesses, we sometimes get defensive. When somebody says, hey, this didn't go right, or I wasn't comfortable with this, or whatever, we tend to, as business owners, get a little bit defensive. Well, we tried, or that was a difficult customer. And a lot of times we just need to listen to the comment, do a realistic evaluation, figure out what was wrong, and then fix it.
Yep, without a doubt, without a doubt. You've got to get smart. You've got to, size up what's going on. You've got to figure out what you want to do with it. You've got to, you've got to listen.
Right.
And you got to apologize. Apology is huge. Apologizing to the guest is huge. They don't want to hear the excuses. They don't care why it happened. All they care about is, what are you going to do to fix it?
Right.
In a lot of cases, it doesn't mean you have to buy the entire check. In other cases, it doesn't mean you have to buy the meal. Just fix it. I came to have dinner.
Acknowledge it. Yeah. They want to come. They want to have a good dinner, a good experience with whatever business it is. That's why they're there. And so by being able to listen and then provide that.
Yep.
Yeah. I know with, I spent some years in telecommunication sales, and overall, some of my best customers and the people I had the best relationships with were people who originally called me because there was a problem.
Yep.
Delivery problem, and by how we responded as a company and how I responded as an individual helped really to build that relationship and was very good for that.
No, without a doubt, it's huge.
Right.
It's huge. And again, it's taking the opportunity to take it one step better.
Right. Now, another story you want to share? Well, and I'll tell you while you're kind of going through that. One of the first times you and I met, I don't know if you remember, we were on a panel discussion with the Prince William Chamber on customer service, and you shared that story, and there were some great questions from that, and spurned some great comments. And that's one of the reasons I brought you in.
Right.
That specific story is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because when talking to you, I can see that aspect of going back to what you talked about before. It's not about, just, I can provide customer service. It's having people and having an attitude of I want to. I want to be the customer advocate, on behalf of the customer for that. So.
Right. I mean, if the guest has got plenty of choices. They've got choices in everything they do. And they make that choice when they get in their car and start driving towards you. They don't make the choice when they get to the parking lot. They don't make the choice when they get to the front door. They made the choice prior to that. And most of that is coming from what their experience was the last time or what they've heard.
Right.
And you don't want people to harp on what the negative was. And it's so easy to harp on that piece of it.
Right.
So easy to, how many times do you tell somebody about a bad movie?
Right.
You warn everybody about a bad movie, but how many times do you tell people about a great movie?
Right.
And you warn everybody about, oh no, that place had just opened up down the road, don't go there, it was terrible, blah, blah, blah. Whether they just opened or they've been open for years, don't go there. But we tend to keep the good to ourselves,
right.
Because I don't want to spoil it,
That's right.
And they get too busy, then maybe it won't be that way.
That's right.
So it's very interesting that, the bad usually gets out, the good stays, and, you need people that, truly are your advocates, and they're out there, telling you who you are.
So what about from the other side? So when you go into other restaurants or other businesses in general, what are some of the common things that you sit there thinking, man, if they would just do this, if they would just do that, what are some of the common problems that you see with other businesses that you really think, that'll help kind of our listeners or our viewers kind of reflect on what they're doing?
I think it's still interesting that, and I think it's so interesting also that the number of places you go in and you see so many different hairstyles or piercings or things along that line, and you've got somebody that you're taking an order from that's got a lip ring or has got a nose ring or has got an eye ring or any of those types of things, and the business is still a very conservative business.
Right.
And it can be, because you're dealing with food and you're dealing with those types of things as far as that part of the business, it's very difficult to kind of get past some of that.
Okay.
Then they wait on you, and they're great people, but
right.
it's that immediate image that kind of really, and I think about that sometimes as I go into some different places. What ifs. In that same census, there are some places you want to go into, and
right.
you want to see that type of person, because otherwise you think, wow, what kind of business is this if they're not promoting their own,
So
wares.
it kind of comes down to, setting up your business to the culture of your customer,
right.
And kind of the expectations of what you see from a specific restaurant. So
Mm-hmm.
a higher end restaurant, you wouldn't expect to see that. You'd see people dressed differently, but
Right.
maybe down in a little bit more trendy type of restaurant, with that type of audience, you might see something different. So
Right.
that matching.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got to match your staff with who you're trying to be. Just rudeness.
Right.
People in conversations with one another as you walk up to the counter, and they don't stop that conversation, and they're talking about something totally not about the business.
Yeah.
They're not talking about what's going on, with the last customer that they had, or about this particular rental or about that particular rental. They're just talking.
Right.
Talking about lunch. They're talking about what they did last night.
Yeah.
And you're standing there as a guest going, I'm here. Anybody see me? And you're just wondering,
Right.
So yeah, it gets to be, that stuff really, people don't understand how much that bothers the average customer.
I'll tell you, it bothers me when, in some setups, you kind of go up to the counter, but also the phone's there so people can do phone orders. And so you'll be standing there, and they'll interrupt that conversation and answer the phone. Like, okay, I got up and came out and sitting here talking to you,
Right.
and you interrupt that, and I've had that happen.
Right. Well, but on that side, it is important that you answer that phone.
Yeah.
But
But it's more of a, hey, can I put it on hold or whatever?
Exactly.
So I answer it and kind of wait on that person. first.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to teach them to, answer the phone, because the opposite of that is being on the phone and the guest walks through the front door.
Right.
That they don't get off the phone,
That's
and they hear that you're taking the order. You've got to be able to say, "Excuse me, let me put you on hold for just a quick second."
Yeah, exactly.
But it's also getting your staff to be aware around you, man. If they see that she's on the phone, then they need
Right.
to take care of the guest that's at the front door.
Yeah.
If they see that she's, with the guest at the front door, they need to answer the phone.
Right.
So, it's organization and it's awareness, big pieces.
Good. Well, once again, Be Better Business TV is live, and so we have questions from our audience. So, Alyssa, who's up next?
The customer is always right, an old adage, but where do you draw the line, or do you ever?
Oh, that's a good one. We hear that all the time. The customer's always right. What do you think?
The customer is always right. And again, like I talked about earlier, it's perception. It's their perception of what they believed was the wrong, what they believed was not particularly right, or what wasn't cooked right. I can do 100 Reubens. 99 people tell me it's the best Reuben they've ever had in their life, and
Right.
one person tells me it's terrible. Is it the Reuben or is it that guest? Who's to say? Maybe that Reuben wasn't made to the spec. Maybe that Reuben wasn't as good as it could be. But reality is that guest didn't like it, so how do I fix it? What do I get them that's going to make them happy?
Right.
From the other standpoint of this adage, that everything went right, but they're still not happy. Ultimately, in the scheme of everything, it's a couple bucks. Do you
Right.
really want to irritate somebody for a couple bucks?
Right.
So it's just not worth it. Take care of them, figure it out, make a difference, and
Yeah.
go from there. Kill them with kindness.
Yeah, and with a service business, especially when you're selling services or kind of bigger ticket type things, sometimes they're hiring you to be the professional and to be the expert. And sometimes they may not like your initial approach, and so I don't want to say they're not right, because they do want the right result, but they may be kind of recommending things, but you as a professional know, and so that's sometimes tough for me, is to kind of take that stand and say, listen, if I do it that way, you're just not going to be happy. You are not going to be satisfied, and we know that. And so that happens in a lot of different businesses. And so sometimes taking that stand is a little bit tough. They're right and they want that right end result. The approach, sometimes you have to be confident enough and know how to approach that as well, though.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that comes a lot of times with people with different allergies and stuff
Yeah.
like that, of being able to, I can make this, but understand that it's going to take an additional 15, 20 minutes. I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you no, but at the same time, I'm not telling you I can make it as fast as I can make what I've already
Right.
got pre-prepared.
good.
You
Yeah, it's
know.
just setting up those expectations.
Right.
That's
And a lot
good.
of times I give people my card and say, hey, that's what you need. Do me a favor. Call me a half hour, 45 minutes before
Absolutely.
you're coming. Call me the day before.
And I think that's that aspect of, just kind of thinking through for that next time, how do we make it better the next time? I think that's an important part of that.
Yep, without a
Right.
doubt.
Good. I'd like to thank Steve Johnson, the managing partner for the Uno Chicago Grill here in Manassas, Virginia, for being our guest. Thank you, Steve.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
And I know that you do a lot for the community. I know you're the Prince William Chamber, and I know you have monthly specials and stuff. How about just taking a minute and sharing a little bit about what's going on this month with the community and also with the restaurant?
Well, let's see. You've got Casa's Retro Party that's coming up. We've
Okay.
got some things going
We had
out for that.
Charlene on the show a couple
Uh-huh.
weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
great. Mhm.
We're doing she'll have a silent auction or a raffle item for a personal chef to come out to your house, which would be me,
Nice. for
a group of 20. You can either do a barbecue, an hors d'oeuvre party that she'll be raffling off. I do that on a regular basis. I started seeing that as an opportunity. We're doing, I've got a catering job on Saturday for one of the local swim teams. We've got the chef tour coming up again for Prince William County, where
Okay.
the middle schools are there's 16 middle schools coming in, and they're creating teams. They've been on teams all year long. That tour comes up at the end of May, and myself and another gentleman down from Robert's, I'm sorry, Robert, I can't think of his restaurant, but he's got a restaurant in downtown Manassas, and the two of us
Oh.
last year were on that board as the two chef.
Something cafe, yeah.
Yeah, the two of us were on that board last year, and we're going to do it again this year.
Great.
So we're looking forward to that, and just constant things, just every month something different, and we're engaged and involved.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because every time I talk to you, even when I go to the events at your restaurant, you always start with kind of what's going on in the community before you talk about even the restaurant yourself. So I really appreciate that and what you do for that.
Yeah, well, it says Uno on the front door, but we're a part of Prince William County and a part of Manassas, and
Great.
that's where we want to be.
Good. Thanks again, Steve, for joining
You're
us.
welcome.
Well, thank you for joining us here today on Be Better Business TV. I'm the host, Jamie Gorman, and we hope that you got something valuable from today's show, and hope you'll join us in the future.